Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I do see someone on the line, so I definitely want to welcome you. So, thank you for joining me today. This is again the second week of my 10-day challenge. Today's day 7, so we're starting to kind of get on the tail end of this. But I do want to welcome you today. We're discussing 3 things to avoid when starting your home care agency. Now, as a reminder, guys, and hopefully, if you guys have downloaded the checklist, feel free to give me some feedback. I would love to know what your thoughts are, your initial thoughts are. But just as a reminder, I have created 2 checklists to help you in your journey. Both of them are absolutely free. So I've created one for those of you who are starting your non-medical home care agencies. And of course, if you're starting any other business, there's a second one that's more general. Okay. So please make sure you're downloading those. Again, they are absolutely free, and it's a great resource for those of you who are starting your business. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and turn to today's content. Yesterday, as we were talking, a couple of things came up out of that conversation that I felt like I wanted to really talk through with you guys, especially for those of you starting your home care agencies. Um, I have done videos in the past on, 5 things you should know before you start your home care agency. And, I'm making sure that I'm giving you the information that you need in order to start that home care agency. But there's the flip side to that. And that is, what are some things that you need to avoid? So that's what we're talking about today, is what are those things that hopefully you guys can avoid. The first thing, guys, is that the first tip I have for you is making the mistake that clients are looking for you. Now, guys, this is absolutely a mistake that I made. And I think part of it is we're hearing about everybody and the success of their business, especially on the world of Instagram and YouTube. We always see everyone's successes, but we really don't hear people talk about their struggles or how hard they work to get to the level that they're at. So the exact opposite is true here, guys. Once you get licensed, it's game on. That's really where you're going to turn up the heat so that you can start making a profit in your business. You got to hit the ground running. And I think for me, I worked so hard to get the license that I kind of thought a switch was gonna was gonna come on and people were gonna be chasing me down. So I don't want anyone to get discouraged when that's not happening. Okay. So I want to also say here, although clients aren't necessarily looking for you, what they are looking for is quality care, right? They're looking for that quality care for themselves or their family members. So the trick is to create a niche that sets you apart from the other local home care agencies around you. Okay. So think of this as a bonus tip. What I'm getting ready to say is a way to develop this is during your recruiting process. So I'm not thinking about it until I'm saying it now. But again, this is a bonus tip. You never want to stop hiring. You never do, because you will see as you're hiring people, things happen. Cars break down. We can't find care for our children. People just will be very excited to get a job and not show up. So you don't ever want to get stuck to where you have a client and there's no one to take care of them. So you always want to continue recruiting. But the part that I wanted to emphasize here is when you're interviewing your home health aides, a question you should always be asking is what sets them apart from other home health aides. Okay. So they should really be telling you how they pursue excellence in their daily work. And another way you can say that is, how does this show up for you every day while you work? And the reason why I say that is because those selling points, those things that that home health aide is going to tell you, that's stuff that you can relate to your customers as you're trying to seal that deal with them, as you're trying to sell your agency to them. Okay. So, really and truly make sure that home health aide is able to share with you specific examples of how excellence has shown up in their work. Because everyone can toot their own horn and talk about how good they are, but you want examples. Okay. The second tip that I have for you that we should avoid is not putting enough effort into marketing. Okay. So just a moment ago, I told you clients are not looking for you, right? But The truth is, more and more people are searching for and are in need of the services that you're going to provide. Okay? There is plenty of business out there, but you must put the effort and money into marketing. You have to. I'm going to tie this back to your business plan because y'all know how I feel about business plans. When you're creating your marketing strategy, this should be your roadmap for when you actually become live. Okay. So you should be putting some real stuff in there. Are you going to be utilizing flyers? Are you going to be finding residents for, those 55 and over communities that you can come speak to some of them, maybe come in at one of the nights and really talk about your services? Because these are relationships and connections that you're going to be building with your community. Okay. Lean on your social media platforms. Guys, before I want to give you an example of this because this is something that really served me. I used to have a Facebook, and the name of my Facebook was, of course, my home care agency. But every day I would just put a tip out there, and it wouldn't have Fujica on there. It would have, hey, this tip was brought to you by, the home care agency. And what that does is somebody is going to come across that, right? And they're going to want to ask more questions about you. They want to know, hey, so what kind of services do you provide? Where are you located? So just by you kind of putting that information out there, you really start to become, in that person's mind, someone who knows what they're talking about, someone whose services they want to inquire into, and a person that they trust. Because remember, this is their family members that they're talking about, or potentially finding care for themselves. So you definitely want to lean on your social media platforms, build your connects and relationships. One thing that I wanted to explore that unfortunately I never got a chance to is there are plenty of schools. Actually, while I was driving into the office today, I saw a new school spring up, some kind of nursing school at the where my office building is. Make connections with those people because a lot of times in those programs there has to be internships. So, could there be a potential for someone to get credits by helping you in your agency? Can you partner with them by doing a community event? One of the jobs that I used to have, we used to do a community event every year where we offered, free flu shots and just, diabetes testing and things of that nature. Can your home health agency partner with those schools so that you can get your name out into that community? These are ideas. It takes phone calls. You got to hustle. You got to hustle and get out there and make those connections and relationships. The last tip I have here, guys, is make a commitment to do something daily to put your home care agency on display. Whether that's a daily post, whether it's passing out flyers, whether it's passing out business cards, whatever that commitment is, you got to make sure that daily you're working on promoting your agency. Okay. The third thing to avoid when starting your home care agency and actually running your home care agency is not knowing state and federal guidelines. So, guys, this is different from licensing requirements because if you have watched any of my videos, I say that a lot. You got to know your licensing requirements, and that is still true. As a business owner, you have to know those state and federal guidelines. So I'm going to use a real life example. Yesterday, we started talking about how much do we pay the home health aides, right? And remember, we were talking about what the average is for different states because it does depend, it does vary based on state. But remember, there's also a minimum wage that we have to keep into consideration. So we definitely don't want to pay under that minimum wage, right? Because those are requirements that we must satisfy as a business owner. Okay. I love this example that I used last week, and I'm going to read it to you again because it flows nicely into what I'm talking about. So, remember when we were talking about policies and procedures last week? And I read to you guys a note where really the only two things that the state of California says you must have in your personnel policies and procedures is abuse reporting procedures and hiring practices. Those are the only two things that are called out. But then they also make a note here that other federal and state agencies have requirements that businesses must adhere to in relation to personnel practices. And then they use an example such as minimum wage and fair employment practices. Okay. So other agencies monitor our compliance with those laws. So even though as we're getting our licensing, there is requirements, they're not enforcing those laws. They just want to make sure that we have those two items in our policies and procedures. But they want to make sure, and they tell us here, make sure that your policies do not conflict with agency laws. Okay. So, how can you go around that? Because some laws you're just not going to be aware of, right? Actually, I'm going to give you another example. We had someone was sharing with me that they had fired someone. And in the state of California, if you let someone go, you must be giving them their final pay that same day you let them go. Well, for whatever reason, there was lots of issues, lots of things happening. They weren't able to do that. Guys, there's a such thing in California as waiting pay. Okay. Waiting pay is how long did this person have to wait to receive their final pay? That's a penalty against the employer. So $3,000 later, this business owner was explaining to me how he literally did not know and all of these circumstances that prevented him from getting this person to pay. The person that he actually had to pay this fee to was not responding to him, was not returning phone calls. But remember, the burden is not on the employer not on the employee. The burden is on the employer. So these are things, these are real life examples that could be costly if you don't protect yourself. So, what are some solutions? You're asking. Well, I'm glad you asked me that. You can hire someone to run your HR department. Okay. And again, you really want to vet this person's experience and knowledge because you're going to be leaning on them to help create some of these policies and procedures we're talking about. Let's say your business is not quite there yet. So you don't have the money to pay someone a salary to have that has that type of experience. Guys, there are monthly legal protections that you can monthly legal protection services, I should say. One that really comes to mind is Legal Shield. Legal Shield. And they have monthly plans that start at 49 bucks. Okay. With that, these are attorneys that practice employment law that can help you with some of these things. Okay. Help keep you and your organization safe. Guys, I'm starting to see a lot of HR solution services springing up. Like I think we've all heard about ADP. I think they're mainly known for their payroll, but they actually do have an HR service. But I don't know if you guys have heard of Bambi.com or BambooHR.com. But these are folks that you can hire on to help run the human resources portion of your business. Okay. But these are just suggestions. But I think the takeaway here is making sure some way you're managing state and federal guidelines. It could be even going to conferences. I always try to make sure that I go to at least one or two conferences a year just to kind of keep up on the challenges. But I will tell you, I had to use a legal service with all of this COVID, you know, with the COVID pay. It's changed a couple of times in the last couple of years. And then so when they sent out guidance, it was kind of confusing. So I don't want to not know what I should be doing when people are out because of COVID. So that's just a real life example I think we can all relate to. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you so much for your time and attendance. I will get this posted to you a little bit later. You guys have a wonderful day. Stay blessed.